This is a Sandy Boy Productions podcast. Hey friends, welcome to All Have Another Podcast with Lindsay Hine. I'm your host, Lindsay, and I'm so grateful you are joining us today. This is our last Boston Marathon interview series. I'm really excited to wrap this post-Boston interview series up with Scott Fauble, who placed 7th as the top American in Boston this year with a PR of 2:08:52. Scott is a returning guest on the show. He was on back episode 146. Then he came on episode 166 with Coach Ben Rosario, right after they published Inside a Marathon, the book they co-wrote together. And then he was on again, episode 178, after the 2019 Boston, when he was 7th place that year. He came on again in episode 230, right before the Olympic trials, when I interviewed the NAZ Elite men's and women's team. So this is Scott's 5th time on the podcast, and so excited to have him back after a great race. Scott has recently moved coaches and training programs. He is working with Coach Joe Bosshard now. In this episode, we talk about Scott's coaching and training group change and what he's excited about. It was great to catch up with Scott. We end the conversation with some fun pop culture type stuff that I love to talk about, and I think Scott does too. So I hope you enjoy this episode. And hey, if you are looking to elevate your running game or athletic endeavors, make sure you check out Inside Tracker, who is sponsoring this episode of the podcast. I just got my blood work done last week. I'm waiting to see what everything looks like this week before I ramp up training this summer for a fall race. And I personally got the ultimate test. It checks so many biomarkers to make sure everything is where it needs to be for optimal performance. We worked so hard training for these marathons and races. It makes sense to make sure we have everything in line inside our bodies. And right now, you all can save at Inside Tracker, which, by the way, is super simple. You purchase the order that you want. I did the ultimate, and then you just print off a lab slip and take it into a lab that they partner with, get your blood work drawn, and then they'll send you the results. They did Quest Labs here in Raleigh. This is such a great guide to navigate you to your goals. We all have big goals here, don't we? So to get 20% off the entire Inside Tracker store for a limited time, go to insidetracker.com/another and use the code another for 20% off. All right, friends, enjoy my conversation with Scott Fauble. All right. Well, back on the podcast today, we have Scott Fauble joining us. Welcome back, Scott.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
How are you doing? What are you up to right now?
Yeah, I'm good. It's like 2 weeks after Boston, so probably going to go for my first run after the race today. Pretty low key last couple weeks.
First run golf today. First run.
Yeah.
For everybody listening, come on. Scott Fauble took 2 full weeks off. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. It felt like it went by fast.
I just feel like people always run marathons, amateurs, and they're like ready to start running again like 3 days later. And I'm like, dude, you got to take at least a full week off. Yeah,
I think there's a level of pride that a lot of amateurs feel where they're like, you know what, I can still bang out 3 or 4 miles even when my legs feel horrible. And maybe I'm just not a proud man. I don't have that.
What have you been doing? Have you been hiking?
Yeah, I've been walking the dog every day. So I've been exercising and I've been golfing a lot. Yeah. No, I mean, not much, hanging out with my fiance. Went to a barbecue, had a few beers the other day, that kind of stuff. Just really relaxed, low key kind of things.
I know you were all up in like Coors talking about that. What kind of beer did you have at the cookout though?
Oh, Coors sent me a bunch of stuff. So
I
brought over a case of beer for everyone. So I was drinking Coors Original.
Oh, nice, nice. So you're getting married kind of soon.
Yeah, 25 days.
How are you feeling? That's exciting.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. It's gonna be a lot of fun. My fiance, who's a saint, you know, deserves almost all the credit for the making sure this is so well planned and organized. So I'm just trying not to get in her way for the most part and help out when I can. And uh, yeah, no, I'm excited. It's gonna be fun.
What are the wedding vibes? Like, what kind of wedding is this? I always said, like, I got married super young. I was 24, and I'm always like, it would have looked so much different if I was even, 30. And I know you're 30.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. It's like I think a pretty normal wedding, hopefully. Nothing. We're not like getting wild with anything. The playlist is like very 2008 homecoming vibes.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're hoping that'll really get the party going. Neither of us are like super like comfortable being the center of attention, so it will hopefully be more like a big party than like a wedding where everyone's looking at us.
Well, it's going to happen, at least that one moment where she's walking down the aisle.
Yeah, well, that's fine. After that, give us what 5-10 minutes up at the altar, and then let's just all have a good time.
I have to admit, that was very uncomfortable for me doing that. Like, that's a very uncomfortable and vulnerable moment. Like, everybody's looking at you. So I'm just preparing you there.
Yeah, well, great. Hopefully everyone will be looking at her. So.
That's true. They will be looking at her. Okay, I have to know though, what were your must-haves on the playlist? I know you said Homecoming 2008, but like what are the artists? Like what are the songs that are like, how you give the DJ a list and then like he kind of does his own thing a little bit too. Like what were the you have to play this songs?
There's a good amount of Akon and Little John on there.
Okay.
A little bit of Usher. Let's see. Some Genuine.
Okay. Pony.
Just some Pony. The bangers. The classic bangers. I think Freak a Leak is on there. That was one of the first. Yeah, it's a little Too Short. Blow the Whistle. Whatever you would have found in like a high school gymnasium with kids awkwardly learning about intergender dynamics in like 2007, 2008, I think is like, that's our genre. If that could be a pin list, that's it. High school gymnasium, 2007.
That's so good. I mean, I remember dancing to Freak a Leak at like frat parties. I'm not that old.
No, it's a great song. I hope it still gets played at frat parties and homecomings. It should be
oh my gosh.
Be like a rite of passage,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Okay. Well, this is great. And remind me, I feel like you and your fiance have been together for a while. Were you together like years ago when we first talked? I can't remember.
Yeah, we met in college. So
oh, wow.
Fall of 2014 is when we met.
Okay.
So it's 8 years or coming up on 8 years.
And then when did you get engaged?
About a year ago.
Okay, cool. Oh, so exciting. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
And last wedding question, where is the wedding? Like what city are you doing it in?
It's in Portland.
Okay, cool. That's where you're from, right?
No, I'm from Denver, but we met in Portland, and that's where Haley's family's all from.
Okay, cool. All right, let's talk about Boston a little bit. Awesome job, 208.52, 7th overall, first American. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
And how'd you feel? Like, did you feel like I have a secret? Like, I know that like I can accomplish something really special today, and I'm kind of like flying under the radar a little bit?
I definitely felt like I was flying under the radar, and that was sort of nice. It kind of felt like a little bit of a change. I felt like I was in good shape. I didn't know whether or not I was like ready to set the world on fire or anything like that, and I don't know if I did. But yeah, I felt prepared, I guess is the right word. And then during the race, I felt like very at ease. I felt like everything I was doing was right in the moment.
So this is your third Boston, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So did you kind of feel like comfortable letting everybody go and just saying like, I'm running my own race. I know this course. I know what my body's capable of.
Yeah, I knew like when the front group sort of broke away at 5 miles, that was too early to start pressing. And one thing I talked about with Joe, my current coach, my new coach, was the first 20 miles are just easy. They're smooth. There shouldn't be strain. The race starts at 20, basically was sort of what we were thinking. And that's advice like I've given to friends of mine who are like, they train and they work out and stuff and they're in decent shape, 220, low 220s and stuff. If they ask for advice, I usually say first 20 miles, you're water, you're just flowing. So try to take a little bit of my own advice. I don't know that I've done that well in other races, sort of progressed a little bit early. And then, so I just felt smooth the first 20 miles. And so when they broke away at 5, that was an easy decision to leave that group.
You're water. You're just flowing. I've never heard that spoken like that. I kind of like it.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, like it's obviously, I don't know, I think the marathon, people overcomplicate it by trying to think about every single mile split or like when do you push and really it's pretty simple. You're just conserving energy. You're smooth but fast as long as you can. And then once you get past 20, kind of just go, nothing really to hold you back then.
Do you feel like that's more so on a course like Boston, though? I mean, I'm not a professional marathoner. I have run like 17 marathons, though, and I feel like I got to work pretty hard before 20 if I'm going to do something special for me.
Well, there's always like a stretch. I've always found that there's a stretch somewhere in the middle that sucks. Like for whatever reason, in like the 11 to 13 mile range, there's always a stretch that feels like, oh man, like I don't know if I can get there. Like I might have to check off. But just accepting that that's coming and then kind of weathering that storm. But I think for most courses, probably it's more true for amateurs since you guys are out there like more minutes. Mm-hmm. I would say like, energy conservation might be like more important. Because if you think about it in minutes, like for me, 20 miles is like hour 38, hour 39. And then the last 6.2 is 30:31. So if you break it down like that, maybe for an amateur, they could push for the last 40 minutes, maybe if their legs are still under them. But I would say it's more important to feel smooth and feel relaxed early so that you can take time out late. And you can manage your nutrition better if you're if you're smooth, you're not burning carbs as early. And I think it's probably more important for amateurs to feel good through 20 or feel like their legs are under them through 20.
I think it's interesting you mentioned the miles 11 through 13. I always feel like in a half marathon, it's miles like 6 and 7 where I'm just like, oh, fuck, like, what am I doing? Like, how am I going to get through? And it's like, I got to get over that hump and then I can get to the last 5K and like mentally process it. But that's similar in the half as well. That's always my mental battle in that middle zone right there.
Yeah, I think you can learn a lot about yourself. And like, if you're watching a race, learn a lot about the competitors. If you watch the race, like between halfway and 2/3 of the race, because you're far enough in where it starts to you start to get fatigued. It starts to suck, but you're not so close that you can smell the finish line. Mm-hmm. So that's where you got to make like tough decisions. Like if you look at somebody with like 700 to go in a mile, like that's when it's easy to check off, mm-hmm. To not keep the pedal down. And it's the same with like a 5K. From like 3 to 4K is when you really find out about someone or find out about yourself. Because that's where it really hurts, but you can't quite see the finish line. So if you just extrapolate that, I think that's sort of the same idea with the marathon, like in the half, like when you start thinking to yourself, like, man, I still have 70 minutes to go or an hour to go and I'm not feeling awesome. But if you can get through that part and you can get to the part where you're looking forward to the end and smelling the finish line, then you can kind of make something happen at the end there, but only if you make the right decisions early.
What were you telling yourself in Boston when everybody went and you were in control and you knew what you were doing? Like, how did you keep yourself calm but ready to like fight when it was time?
We had a good group in that second pack. I felt comfortable. Like it's nice to have validation in your decisions. Like if I had checked off and like Jared Ward and Colin Benny and like Reed Fisher and the guys that I was sort of trusted to make good decisions weren't in that group, then I would have maybe been a little more anxious. But I felt like there was some strength in numbers. We had a good group. We were pretty cooperative. We were working together. And, I knew like we were still on sub 209 pace, even when we checked off. I came through halfway in 104.26. And was like, well, that's the fastest I've ever come through a half marathon, and I'm feeling okay. So like, I know that the people up front are going to start to fade. And just, I guess I kind of just had faith. Like I said, I felt really comfortable in the moment for basically that whole race. There was never like a time when I was unsure of myself for whatever reason. I felt like I knew what I was doing was right.
Did you feel, and you replace this word if there's a better word, did you feel like a little bit of redemption after a hard Boston in the fall? And I know you were sick before the trials, and so that ended up not being, the best race of your life. But did you feel a little bit of redemption in all these years of hard work?
No, I don't think I felt redemption. I felt validation and I felt pride. Because like I always knew that I was that good. Like I've always known that I'm that good or better.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks to not like live up to that, but that sort of happens, it happens. And I think part of the reason it happened was because I was pressing in practice, and I was like pressing mentally, like to think of myself as like world class, as elite, and like feeling like I needed to live up to that every day. And that was different this build up. I felt like all I can do is like do well on the day, and I don't have to win Boston every single time we do a workout. I can just be fine. I can just be okay. I don't need to be special and light the world on fire. And part of that, it was, working with Joe, our training was very conservative, and we didn't, there were a lot of days where he was like, see how easy you can make this, which was sort of a different split or a different mentality than I think I had coming into some of the other races where I was like really feeling like I needed to light the world on fire in practice.
So like he would say that on a workout day?
Yeah, he's like, don't press. See how easy you can make this. Like he really differentiates running fast from running hard. So you run like, sometimes in practice you're allowed to run fast, but you're not allowed to run hard. And you can find that balance between I'm going to run fast, but I'm going to be smooth. I'm going to be easy. You let the effort and the feelings and the efficiency drive the ship instead of like trying to force a split. I think that made a big difference to me this time.
Kind of takes some pressure off.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's a much more fun way to train where you're not constantly worrying about whether or not you're good enough to win Boston on every given day,
Yeah.
Because everyone, even, Kiptu, who won Boston, it was Kiptu, right? Or Kipruto? One of the two. Anyways, even he had bad days in training. Like, I know that he did, because that's how it works. Everyone has bad days in training. You're training hard, you're going to have bad days. But it's hard to remind yourself that sometimes when feel like you need to punch above your weight a little bit. So yeah, well, we just try to take care of everything day by day.
Hey friends, a quick break here to share with you about a product I'm loving, Portland Bee Balm. Beyond the amazing quality of their balm, Portland Bee Balm is committed to creating sustainable products, which is hugely important to me. They are members of 1% for the Planet, which means they donate 1% of revenue to organizations tackling our planet's most pressing environmental issues. This is so cool. Products that are useful, natural, and add value to people's lives and the world. Portland Bee Balm provides the best hydration for your lips with clean and simple ingredients. Since I put balm on my lips multiple times throughout the day, it is very important to me that the products I'm using are clean and effective. Portland Bee Balm has so many different varieties of scents, but my favorite is the Oregon Mint. The ingredients they source and the packaging they use all support health and well-being to the environment and community. So awesome. You all can go to portlandbeebalm.com and use the code SandyBoy for 20% off your first order. All right, friends, back to the show. Okay, so let's just talk about working with Joe now and the feelings around that and how you chose to go that route. It sounds like things have been simplified and pressure has been taken off a little bit. As I'm saying that, though, I'm curious. if you could go back and tell like 2019 Scott, who just had that outstanding performance in Boston when you PR'd and were 7th American then, or I keep saying American, 7th overall, 1st American then. Like, if you could go back and tell yourself something, like, what would you tell yourself?
I tell myself not to change, because I tried not to change. I really did. I tried not to like let my performance at 2019 Boston influence how I went forward, because I was aware that the way we got to the 2019 Boston result was by focusing on the process. But then when you're so close to like attaining something like, and look, 7th at Boston in 2019 was awesome. It was special. But like, when you're close to attaining, it always feels like there's another tier that you're really close to getting to, like it's like, man, maybe, I wasn't that close to running 208. I wasn't that close to getting top 5. Like, you get away from, I think, the things that got you there, which was like just being as good as you can be on the day, and like not trying to knock every workout out of the park, like really picking and choosing your days and not putting too much pressure on yourself, and just focusing on like being excellent at getting excellent, as opposed to assuming you're going to be great and needing to live up to some artificial bar that you've set for yourself based on past results. Like, I don't know. I think I got away from focusing on the process, and I really wanted the results to come. And I think if that's a mistake that amateurs make as well, where like, just sort of relate this to probably more of your listeners, like when people say, I want to break 3 hours in the marathon before the training has started. Well, now you're training to break 3 hours when that's backwards. Like, you should be doing the training and then allowing the training to like educate how you think the race is going to go. And I was doing the same thing. I was like, well, I was 7th at Boston, so now like I have to win the trials. And so I was spending the whole training block trying to live up to winning the trials, when I should have just let the training come and figured out whether or not I was capable of winning the trials after the fact, or like after the training, before the race. And the same thing with 2021 Boston. I was like, well, my goal is to win Boston, so I have to nail this workout. I have to nail that workout. I have to, exceed expectations here, and that's just not that fun or that healthy. And it sort of like sets you up to get in over your head. And I think that's kind of the worst thing you can do in the marathon is it's too long and too hard to kind of get out over your skis. You kind of need to be within yourself. So, yeah.
That's really good advice. So many people have.
Yeah, I kind of went on a long tangent there.
No, please. I love it. You make my job easier when you do that. Please do that.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I think that's such good advice. And you mentioned the 3 hours. And I mean, for a lot of time, for amateurs, it's like the elusive, like, I want to Boston qualify and things like that. And it's really hard to not focus on that goal. But you're so right. How do you I guess you're still working through it, and it seems like you sort of figured it out this time. But like, how do you manage that? Because at the end of the day, like, you want to be the best. Like, you want to win. Like, you want those fast times and all those things. I know for you at the majors, it's like a place over a time, obviously, but like, how do you manage like process, but I'm still really competitive and I still want to be the best?
Yeah, I think it was like making the transition to working with Joe and being on like the team boss, I think helped, because a lot of those women are really good at it. Like, if you like being around Emma Coburn, like I've never heard her talk about, she's so interested in doing as well as she can on the day. Never really heard her talk about her like goals for the next worlds or whatever. It's all about getting better today and assuming that will lead to success later. So I think trying to soak up that team atmosphere. I think one of the reasons I wanted to work with Joe is because I think the team boss ladies have like a certain level of swagger that I sort of aspired to have, I guess. And maybe I felt like I was forcing it previously. So yeah, I just tried to soak it up from some of my new teammates.
I love that. So I know that you reached out to a few coaches when you decided it was time to move on, and it ended up working out with Joe. What was it about him specifically, not necessarily compared to the other coaches, but like what were the special things about him that you really wanted to be a part of? I know the ladies, of course, but like the team.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciated that, like I'm still living in Flagstaff right now, and I was up in Colorado for 8 weeks. But I appreciated that Joe was like flexible enough to work with me in a less than like 100% ideal situation. So that was great. That was a big selling point. And I appreciated that he didn't really feel like he was trying to sell me anything. He was sort of like, this is what we do. This is sort of our attitude surrounding training. These are our guiding principles. And if you want to be a part of that, great. And that's sort of what I've responded to, like in terms of, I guess, picking out teams or picking out friends, I guess, in my whole life is like, I've never really liked people who felt like they were putting on a performance to impress me or whatever. Like even at University of Portland, Coach Connor was like, hey, look, you can come in. This is what we do. This is sort of how we do things, and you can be a part of it if you want. And I was like, I do. That's great. And so I felt that same sort of energy from Joe, which is like, that's like confidence to just say, this is how we do things, and you can be a part of it if you want to be. So I felt I liked his confidence. I liked his flexibility, and just talking on the phone, I thought we would, I liked him and I thought we would get along well. And yeah.
Did you ever get bored with the 4 workouts that I've heard about?
No, I didn't. I mean, it's, this was my first build up with him. So maybe in time I'll be like, I'd love to change things up. But no, on the first time through, I felt very ready or very open to doing whatever he told me.
Yeah. I feel like, well, it's kind of nice to hear that it's just like everything was simplified and it just feels like less stressful. But it seems like people just want to do all kinds of different workouts and, fast and slow and speed up and intervals and all the things. And it can get really overcomplicated. And I don't just mean for pros. I mean for all of us and all the people listening. It's like, do you really have to do all those things? I mean, and how much of it is you're doing it for the confidence? I think some people need that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, I mean, I'm not a great golfer. I'm okay. But I find myself making that mistake on the course as well, like really needing to overcomplicate things and really like trying to get cute when I'm on the driving range. And it's like, no, just hit the ball, just like, just keep your hands in front of it, compress the ball, move it down the fairway, and you don't need to try to cut corners or, hit like a low burning snap hook to get her out of a tree. Like sometimes you just got to play laterally. And I think the same applies to, running, where I think people, they get really focused on sort of the jargon. They're like, oh, I got to hit this zone, or like, I got to, build my speed endurance or like my aerobic threshold. And it's like, well, yeah, but you can kind of just do that by doing like really simple stuff well. You don't need to be like targeting specific adaptations in workouts necessarily, when you can just have good workouts and sleep good and take your easy days easy, and you'll do pretty well.
Tell me a workout though that you did do that was like confidence building and you felt like, okay, I nailed that. Like I'm good for Boston.
We didn't really have those. Like I didn't have a day where I was let off the leash. Like everything was very attainable. It was very, all the workouts were very gettable. There wasn't anything I had to like really, really reach for. I had some good long runs, had some good sessions, and Joe was confident, so I was confident.
I mean, it kind of makes me excited to train for a marathon, Scott. I've been like, so like, I don't want to put the work in for that. But this like theory makes me feel like, oh, I could do it. I could work hard and still run kind of fast without like, taking myself down to the ground.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, I didn't have any, like, I got to sit down in the shower days.
Okay.
I was tired. Like I was like, I don't want people to think I didn't work hard. I worked really hard.
Obviously.
But the workouts were very controlled.
Yeah. You never felt like you went totally to the well.
For sure. Yeah. And that's different than I think how Ben Rosario does it at NAZ Elite. And that worked really well for me for a number of years. But I think I got a little older and I needed something different.
Sure. Yeah. That's a really good point. With age, like your training just has to change, at least for most people.
Yeah, that's true.
I do want to talk about Ben a little bit. I love Ben. I love talking with the NAZ crew, and I actually just interviewed Ben a couple weeks ago with his new book coming out. Um,
Yeah,
I'm not sure if his episode or your episode will come out first, but um, I know you guys had a good relationship for a long time, and you are on good terms, and everything is fine. But it must have been hard to make that decision to leave someone who's been coaching you for, almost all, if not all, of your professional running career.
yeah, it was hard. It was very hard. But I felt confident in my decision. I was really not looking forward to when I told Ben about my decision, but I felt like I was doing the right thing. Um, and I also knew like Ben's professional. Ben, he's really competitive,
Mm-hmm.
and so I knew that like we were probably going to have a tough couple of weeks. But at the end of the day, like he was going to get it. He was going to understand. Like very few athletes spend their whole career in one situation. Everyone wants to be Derek Jeter. Everyone wants to have a career like Meb where they have one coach and they have success for 20 years. But that's just you know that's not reality for most people. Most people change coaches, and so I knew that he was going to see that, and I knew that we were going to be fine long term if we could just get through that sort of shitty period. And we did. We're fine now. We hung out after Boston at the after party. We texted a bunch about the Masters golf tournament, talked about fantasy golf. So yeah, we're good. We're good. When he gets back from Kenya, we'll meet up at trivia and have a couple beers, and we'll be good.
I love a big running dork that is into all kinds of other sports. That's one of my favorite things about Ben. I love that he's like into all the sports.
Yeah, no, I think it's a lot of he's really that's one of the reasons I think he has such good relationships with his athletes is because he's not like so focused just on running that he has outside interests, whether it's other sports or whether it's like American history or whatever it is, he's interested in it. And there, I think it helps him bond with his athletes a little bit because you can have shared interest with them outside of work.
What was like, when did you know? I feel like these decisions in life can be hard even when you know, but like when were you like, okay, I know that this is what I have to do?
After Boston 2021, I reached out to some people who I think are smart and I trust in the sport, and just wanted to get their opinions on things and sort of get their perspectives. And I think I was probably feeling like I just felt really unprepared at Boston 2021. I just felt really like I didn't have the tools I needed. And so when after that, I was thinking about it and reached out to some people and just kind of they sort of reaffirmed what I was feeling. Like I didn't have the conviction in the program anymore. I didn't have I didn't feel like I was going to I felt like I was a little bit out. And once you're, I think, a little bit out, like you're just going to be a shitty teammate and you're not going to be interested, and it's going to be bad for everybody if have one foot in and one foot out. So at that point, I was just like, I need to make up my mind, and I need to decide whether or not I can get all the way back in the boat or whether I need to do my own thing. And I felt like it was just time for me to do my own thing. So I would say somewhere between Boston 2021 and December, right around Thanksgiving, I think.
Well, you ran really well in Houston. What was your like life and coaching and all that looking like in Houston, like leading up to that?
Yeah, I coached myself for about 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
It's a nightmare. I'm bad at coaching myself. I spent way too much time worrying about whether or not I was writing the right workouts for myself, what my mileage was going to be, what I was doing here and there. And it was just, I knew I was not sustainable. I mean, I knew it was never going to be sustainable. I know I can't coach myself, but that was a nice affirmation of that. And so I was looking for coaches basically right after I left Ben. And so I started working with Joe early December, maybe. And
Okay.
yeah, and so he coached me for 5-6 weeks before Houston.
For Houston. And
Yeah.
you said in your post after that, like sometimes you just need to get out of your own way. What did you mean by that?
I think I was talking about in the race.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, like I think one of the mistakes I've made in the past is like, inevitably in a race when it's hard, you start having negative thoughts and you start like kind of writing the story of the rest of the race. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I did a better job of getting out of that in Houston, where I was like, 8 miles in or whatever, I'd have a bad minute or something like that and be like, well, shit, like maybe I should just check off like 5 miles to go, 25 minutes. I can still salvage a good time. Like, I can hang in there, I guess, but like, I don't know if I can hang with this front group. And I would just say, like, no, fuck that. Like, give me 5 hard steps and you're back in this group. And just letting the race come to me as opposed to feeling like I needed to outsmart the race.
It's wild to me that you even have those thoughts. Like, because I think that is what a lot of us get so nervous about before a race. It's like, am I going to be mentally strong enough to work through that exact feeling that you just explained? Or am I going to give up just a little bit, like still run okay, but give up just a little bit to that like pain and how bad it hurts? So it's so interesting to me that you're like working through this at your level.
Yeah, I think anyone who says that they don't like have those feelings are like that they're lying to you. Like maybe you get a day like once a year or once a career, maybe even, where you have no negative thoughts and you just like feel perfect and never have to make a tough decision. But that's not reality. And I think you got to practice that like in workouts, because in workouts you're going to have days where it's like, this feels like shit. Like, I don't know if I can finish this. And you have to find your strategies before the race. You can't go into a race looking for like on a journey of self-exploration to try to figure out how you're going to get out of a bad situation. Like, you got to have that toolbox ready. So I practice it during workouts too. I feel that way during most workouts.
Would you say Boston, you had a day where you didn't really have those feelings? Or, well, you said mile 11 maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I had a really good day in
Yeah.
Boston. I had a lot of positive feelings, and it helps that I felt good in the second half and I kept catching people. But even like in the last 5 miles, like when it started to really hurt, it was like, okay, well, I got myself into 10th. Like, that's a pretty remarkable day. Like, part of me was willing to settle,
Mhm.
and I still had to snap out of that and be like, no, one more guy, one more guy, one more guy. Like crush this mile, like get to the sit go sign, like I had to get out of that thinking, I guess, and just let my legs do their thing.
Was the last person that you passed?
I think it was on Boylston.
On Boylston. Did you pass a couple people on Boylston?
Yeah. I passed 3 people in the last 2K.
Okay.
I think I passed Jamel Yimmer on Boylston. He was jogging it in at that point, but yeah, I think I got someone on Boylston.
Okay, so tell us what your like post-race feelings were. Like, what did Scott feel?
I felt relief, honestly. I think that was what I felt, relief more than anything. It was like my fiance had gotten down to the finish line area. She had to pass. So I hugged her and, felt really happy there in that first moment. And then eventually made my way through drug testing, and drug testing really puts a damper on any positive feelings.
Sure.
You can imagine filling out paperwork and peeing in a cup in front of another man. I have to feel like elation during that, but I felt happy. I felt relief.
Oh, that's so good. Last NAZ question. I'm curious, have you thought about, and maybe you're still formulating these thoughts, but like, what are some of your biggest lessons that you've taken with you from Coach Ben and just that whole portion of your career?
I learned a lot about professionalism. Like, this is a job, and it's an awesome job. It's a great job. I'm really lucky to have this job, but it is a job. And I think a lot of people treat it like not like a hobby, but like there's some sort of entitlement where they don't have to do things other adults have to do. So I think I learned a lot about professionalism from Ben and from NAZ Elite. I learned a lot about where I think the sport needs to go, in terms of like sort of how athletes need to have relationships with brands and how athletes need to create their own leverage. And, and I made really good friends. I made really good relationships at NAZ Elite. So think those are the three things. Professionalism sort of formed my image of the sport, uh, and relationships.
I love that. What can you dive in a little deeper on the where the sport needs to go?
Yeah.
I know that's a big topic.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at like some of the sports that we should be comparing ourselves to, like Formula One or cycling, which are have a much bigger global profile than athletics. Um, you see this like team infrastructure that is searching out non-endemic sports brands or non-endemic brands to sponsor the team. Like you look at the Formula One cars, and they're like a giant billboard with 100 logos on them, and that's not what the sport of running looks like at all. There's logo restrictions. There's
Mm-hmm.
um, like pretty massive. I think there's like a big bias from at the top towards not changing, towards keeping the status quo and not innovating in any way because they're making the money. And if they innovate, then maybe they won't have as big of a share of a pie. But uh, yeah, I think that's, and just sort of seeing the infrastructure that Ben has created around the athletes, like understanding that the athletes are first and forefront, and the best way to create value is by creating an environment for them to succeed. The providing health insurance, like providing access to physios and access to sports psychology, and like having as many professionals around as possible. I think that's one thing I learned there, and just trying to do stuff, trying to be innovative, not getting stagnant. During the pandemic, Ben took it on himself to plan the marathon project and plan a 5K in St. George. And I think that's not what you see in the rest of the sport. And yeah.
So, like, does that look like you athletes working with your agents to be more innovative, and then people like Ben or Joe, like coaches of groups, being more innovative? Like, how does that change happen?
Well, I think it will likely have to happen from like the coaches and the athletes, but it shouldn't. I don't think like it'd be wild if like Roger Federer had to plan his own tournaments.
Yeah.
It should be happening from up top. It should be
Sure.
happening but like the people who run the sport are in many cases corrupt and in more cases lazy.
Mm.
So I'm not optimistic on that front, but because it just like there's like abdicating that responsibility to athletes and coaches is not fair because they have other jobs. That's not their job.
Sure.
Like my skill set does not include like navigating legalese and figuring out health insurance, like group health insurance plans. But like you kind of have to be a jack of all trades in this sport since there's not like a larger infrastructure.
Was your health insurance, did you have private health insurance, or did you have health insurance through the NAZ group?
I had health insurance through NAZ.
That's pretty cool. Go, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was wonderful. That
Yeah.
was awesome.
Okay, so what are like your biggest priorities when bringing on a sponsor when that happens? I know, obviously you're with Hoka for a very long time. Everybody knows you wore the Lululemon tie-dye jersey in the race,
Yeah.
which was awesome, by the way. Is Lululemon like sending you like lots of gear now?
No, they haven't sent me any gear. I would love to work out some sort of larger deal with them or some other company. But no, I haven't. Coors is the only one who sent me a care package.
But what's most important to you with a sponsor?
I want in my next contract the ability to formulate my career in a way that fits my skill set. So like I would rather have just like a good base salary with like less time-based incentives and more like big bonuses and bonuses that are hard to achieve, but like bonuses that fit what I want to do. So like I don't really have any interest in going to Berlin or London or whatever, because like my PB in the half is like about what those guys come through half marathon in at Berlin or London. Like I can't compete up front there. I'm not delusional about that. I'm not a 203 guy right now, or probably will ever be, but that's fine because you don't need to be a 203 guy to run well at Boston or New York or, any of these other more tactical decision-making marathons. So I would like a contract that, like complements my skill set. And I don't want to like have to look down my contract and be like, well, actually, like I would be leaving a lot of money on the table by not going and chasing a time. Like I don't really want to do that. I don't think it makes sense for me at this point, and I'm happy with my PB. I hope I run faster, but if I don't, then this is something I can end my career proud of. And yeah, I just would like a contract that I guess suits me a little bit more than I think a lot of just generic contracts might be.
Well, I think that more people like advocating for themselves like you're going to do here is what it's going to take, right? For those opportunities to come up for more people. And it's almost like does it take like experience and like I've been in this game for 8 years now or 7 years now to know like, oh, wait a minute, like you said, this is a business and I can advocate for myself and I can just make more of the decisions myself.
I think it's tough because, yeah, I mean, I think that would be huge. And I think people advocating for themselves is great. But I think that the issue is like, it's tough to advocate for yourself when you're working through an agent. And it's tough to not have an agent because, especially if you're not like a big star, like I know Allison Felix, her husband represents her, and that's great because she's Allison Felix. She can get in a room with anybody. But like me coming out of college, couldn't really get in a room with everybody. I was running 28:43. I'd been All-American in cross country, but it doesn't really move the needle. And so you kind of, I think at that point in your career, you need an agent just to get you in the door. And it's tough to like, there's a certain relationship with agents that like between the agent and the companies that sponsor athletes that it's tough to sort of wedge your way into. And look, that's not a shot at my agent by any means. Josh is wonderful. Josh is great. He's been nothing but awesome to me. But I think larger picture in the sport is, I think a lot of progress can be made in terms of agents actually working for their athletes as opposed to working for the companies they're signing the deals with.
I mean, everybody loves Josh Cox.
Yeah, great guy. Wonderful guy.
One day I'm going to get him on this podcast. He tells me he doesn't like to be the person with the attention on them, but I really do want to interview him someday.
Yeah, if you ever do, block off 2.5, 3 hours because the man can talk.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. I want to give you a heads up. I am going out to Madison, Wisconsin in June for the Made to Move race weekend. I am so excited about this race weekend. Mel Charbonneau, who is the founder of Fellow Flowers, and I, along with Tony Carey, who is the founder of Black Girls Run, are going to have an amazing conversation the Friday before the race at the Made to Inspire event. So you can come to the race, do the race. There's a 5K, a 10K, and a half marathon on that Saturday, June 11th. And then the Friday before, we're going to have this awesome event with Mel, myself, and Tony Carey. So when you go to runsignup.com/made-to-move, use the code Lindsay10 to get 10% off your registration. Go check out the Made to Move website as well to check out and get registered for the Friday event. I'm so excited about it. We'll put a link to sign up for the race and the Friday event in the show notes at sandyboyproductions.com. All right, friends, enjoy the rest of my conversation with Scott Fauble. So, okay. I love your conversation around like not being entitled and like viewing this as a job. And I'm so curious looking back, like, is it what you expected? I mean, what do you think? You're like halfway through your pro career like at this point, right?
Yeah, hope so.
So like, what do you think looking back? Are you where you hope to be? Is it what you expected it would be?
I don't know. Probably not. I'm probably like I've said before, I have high standards for myself. So I imagine if you had told me in 2015 when I graduated college, like, hey, 7 years, you'll have 2 contracts. I guess, I would take it, but I would have thought that I would have run faster, especially in the shorter distances. I thought I had a little more juice in the 5K and could have run a little faster on the 10, um, but I think I would have been happy with it because I kind of knew, like, people aren't going to know who this is, but Christo Landry was big when I was in college, and he was winning this, like, the USATF road circuit often, and I sort of saw myself as in his sort of shoes, where it was like, I don't know if I can compete world championship wise on the track. Maybe I can sneak on a team here and there. But I really saw myself on the roads. So I would have thought I would have won a little bit more, I think. But I don't know that I would have. Yeah, no, I don't know. That's not really that good of an answer to your question. I think I would have thought I would have, I guess, accomplished a little bit more, but I would have been happy with what I've done.
What's he doing now?
Don't know. I don't know Crystal that well. Met him in a few races, but I hope he's happy. He had a wonderful career, and I hope he's doing something that fulfills him.
I love it when names like that get brought up. You're right. I had no idea who you're talking about.
He was very good on the roads in like 2013 to 2016 up to 2017. I haven't heard from him a ton since then. And also the road scene has gotten much more competitive in the last 4 or 5 years. So
sure.
Yeah, in the past there were some races he was kind of sweeping up, just sort of hoovering up prize money. But yeah.
Okay, so are you bouncing back between Boulder and Flagstaff?
Right now I'm in Flag with my fiance. I don't know when I'll be back in Boulder, probably whenever we get ready for the next marathon. But yeah, no, I think we'll probably just do stints in Boulder. I don't know that we'll move there. Sort of a lot of stuff in the air right now in terms of where we'll be living soon.
What does your fiance do?
She's a physical therapist.
Oh, okay.
At the hospital in town.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else new going on? Like, any good books or shows or podcasts? You don't do your podcast anymore, but like what pop culture fun stuff is Scott into? What are you into?
Let's see. What did we just finish? I think Hulu has some good stuff right now. I watched the Founder. No, sorry, The Dropout. Dope Sick was good. I'm interested in watching the show with John Bernthal on HBO, like by the producers of The Wire. I think it's called We Are the City.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love The Wire, so I'll watch anything Wire adjacent. Last season of Ozark, last few episodes, so I'll be all over that soon. On a different note, my fiance and I started what it's called, Are You the One, which is a horrible reality TV dating show that I think was on MTV. So I'm a lowbrow, highbrow guy. I'll read. I'll watch good stuff. Emmy award-winning stuff. I thought Mayor of Easttown was awesome. That's one of the best shows I've ever watched. And then I'll also watch, Are You the One? I can't wait for Big Brother to start up. So I got a wide taste. In terms of books, I'm rereading Of Mice and Men.
Okay.
Because I thought, I read that in high school, and I felt like it was wasted on me then.
Mm-hmm.
Probably didn't appreciate it as much as I should have. And then after that, I'm going to read Chuck Klosterman's new book called The 90s. So that's sort of what I'm looking forward to. It looks good.
Okay, you remind me of my husband in your taste for movies and shows. I, however, would never be able to get him to watch that MTV show with me.
Okay.
Maybe we've just been married for too long.
Yeah. So I think we turned it on because we were between shows and we watched NBA. We watched the NBA, and the NBA finished at 8:20 or something like that one night. Or maybe one of the games was out of hand, and it wasn't enough time to get into a whole new show. But there were new episodes of it. Haley had seen the old ones. She's like, let's just watch one. It's like, all right. And then I was just looking at my phone and just sort of following it.
Sure.
Because you only have half watched these things.
Yeah.
And yeah, now we're 5 episodes in. It really hits you quick. That Netflix algorithm where it just keeps feeding you more stuff. All of a sudden, you're invested in something you shouldn't be invested in. But now I want them to win the $1 million.
Did you watch Winning Time?
I haven't watched Winning Time. I've read the book by Jeff Pearlman.
Okay.
Yeah. He's great. He's a really good author. So I sort of know the story. I understand Jerry West doesn't love it, though.
Well, yeah. One of the I listened to this pop culture podcast called The Popcast, and one of the hosts, Knox, who you actually kind of remind me of him too with your taste, and I know he's like obsessed with Chuck Klosterman as well. So I'm like, maybe you and Knox would jive. But he was saying that the way they depict Jerry West is like actually not the way that he is, and so maybe that's why Jerry West is not happy.
Yeah, well, he's suing them for defamation. So, it sounds like in the show, he has like pretty major anger issues.
Yes.
Yeah, which I don't think Jerry West is like a calm dude, but I don't think he was like, I don't know, at least in the book, it doesn't sound like he was like should have been in jail. It doesn't seem like he needed to like check himself into anger management or anything like that. He was just a competitive guy.
I feel like in the show too, they depict him as having like a pretty bad alcohol problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he might have. It was the early 80s in the NBA. I don't think that they were the most. I don't think they were fun, back then.
Okay, cool. Well, will your podcast ever come back?
I would like it to come back. I liked doing them in person. And, the pandemic sort of shut that down. And now I'm sort of in between places. So, yeah, I would like to do it again. There's a few movies I'd really like to do. I'd like to do Taken.
Okay.
Because I love that movie. I've seen Taken probably 100 times because it's a good rehab movie, like where you just put it on and then you do something else and you watch it. You've seen times where you can just sort of follow along. I'd like to do The Town.
Ooh, yeah.
I would like to do basically any action movie. I think are really fun to do because they're generally pretty flawed. Like if you would rewatch like The Godfather or something like that. Like that movie is basically perfect. There's like, what criticism am I going to make about Francis Ford Coppola's masterpiece? But if you watch like, The Dark Knight, there's some real plot holes that are like fun to like actually talk about as opposed to pieces of art that are basically unimpeachable.
That's what you do on the show. It's called The Showrunners, right? That's what you do. You break down the show.
Yeah, we break down a movie. Talk about the things we like, the things we don't like, the things that don't make sense. One of our bits was like lines that would make the best Instagram caption.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
Glenn, that's my husband. He is like so disheartened that I've never seen The Godfather. Like it's
pretty good.
It's like it's like my biggest flaw to him. That I have never, because he too thinks it's like the best show of all time. He'll randomly just like watch it on a Wednesday. He's just like, I'm just going to watch The Godfather. I'm like, what is this world?
Yeah. I'm not like a big, like you need to go see 100 classic movies so that that's not really my thing. I kind of think that you should be responsible for pop culture starting when you were like 10 years old. Like, I don't think I should be responsible for knowing movies that came out in 1993. It's like I was 2. I had other things going on. But I think The Godfather would be worth it.
Is that like the one? Like if you had to pick one that like everybody should watch this show, like would that be it or this movie?
Yeah, maybe The Godfather.
Have you seen Coda?
I haven't seen Coda. I don't have Apple TV.
Oh shoot!
I want a subscription service. I haven't splurged for.
We just canceled Netflix, but we're hanging on to Apple TV and Hulu.
Apple TV and Hulu. Okay. We have Netflix still on my parents' account. Netflix, please don't cancel me.
But they're going to, aren't they? Aren't they making it so you can't?
We'll see. They're losing subscribers right and left. It seems like they would want to keep as many people logged into their app as possible while the share price plummets. We have Hulu, I have ESPN Plus and Amazon Prime.
No HBO.
HBO Max. Yeah, I've got HBO Max as well.
Well, we're ripping that off of my husband's dad still. I'm like, we're 38 and we're still sharing accounts. So
there should be like a Tinder for like TV apps. Be like, all right, have Hulu looking for Apple. Like if you can have multiple people on each account, like, You share, just Venmo each other, or whatever. Figure out the difference.
Totally. And we canceled
Yeah.
Netflix mostly. Like the price increase was mostly just like a reminder that that's the one we probably use the least. And
Hmm.
so we were just like, okay, it's time. And I don't think
Yeah.
we'll miss it. If you don't have it to flip through, I don't think you'll miss it.
Yeah, I would like to go back to the old Netflix where they sent you DVDs.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah.
I would go back to that because you had the queue, and then like sometimes you're looking through it and you're like, oh man, like, what's an example? It's like, oh man, Triple Frontier. Like, I'd really like to watch that again, but not right now. But like, if they send me the DVD, I have to watch it,
Yeah.
or else I'm not getting my money's worth.
You're committed
So
to it. Yeah.
yeah, I think I would like the DVD situation where they're like, you got to watch this and send it back, and here's the envelope.
Um, okay, last comment on this. How does Redbox still exist? Like, do people actually still have DVD players?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I
I'm
see
not
them
sure.
at like, Walgreens and McDonald's, like
Yeah,
out there.
I know. Do you have to bring it back
Yes.
to the Redbox?
It's like
See,
a
that seems like
dollar.
the issue for me
I know.
with bringing it. I just want to put it in the mailbox
I,
or just throw it away.
like with Netflix, I know. I go all the way back to the Blockbuster days. You're probably too young. Like, did you go to Blockbuster as a kid?
Yeah, yeah. I was. It was like very much a, oh, you're sick and not going to school today. Like, let's pop over to Blockbuster. 15 minutes. Pick out your movie. Never ending story. Land Before Time.
Mm-hmm.
We'll head back. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that is like the marker of like, you're quite a bit younger than me, but like people that phased out of like the Blockbuster days, that's like a whole new generation. You had to be
Well,
close to the cusp.
yeah, I think so. I was. Yeah, I would say I remember when it was a big deal when you could get a DVD at Blockbuster.
Yeah.
And we were not the first family to have a DVD player. So it was like, oh man, like they've only got this movie on DVD. Like, I need to watch it on VHS. We still have that. So I remember Blockbuster. I I feel like though that I'm much closer, I know you're 8 years older than me, did
Yeah.
you say 38? Yeah,
Yeah.
so but I feel much closer to your age than a 22-year-old, you
Yes, for
know?
sure. For sure.
I think we're probably both as like social media savvy where it's like, all
Yeah.
right, I figured out Instagram, I figured out Twitter. I have no interest in figuring out TikTok.
No.
That's too young for me. Like Snapchat came and went, but it was
And
you
there's
know,
kids still do Snapchat though. Like I feel like my babysitters still use it.
yeah, all my like younger teammates or younger friends, like that's how they communicate with people. They don't like
Snapchat.
text us, Snapchat. It's like why would I send something that's only going to exist for 10 seconds?
I
That's
know.
useless. Um, yeah, so I feel much I feel like the delineation is like 28 years old right now. You're older. And then if you're younger than 28, you're like a young person still.
Well, also the gap just gets different. Like I feel like once you're late 20s, you're just like more the late 20s to the late 30s to 40s even kind of all start morphing together a little bit more.
Yeah, like once you have a big wedding season, you might as well. There's really not a big difference between like, or once your friends start having kids, there's really not a big difference between like 27 and 40.
Yeah,
They're just kids.
that's it.
They're
Yeah.
the issue. They're the thing.
That's the face. Yeah, I know. And I'm about to hit all the 40th birthday parties.
Yeah.
This is where I am.
Yeah.
um okay. Well, this has been fun. Thank you for the like movie chat as well. I always like to like just take it away from running a little bit and just talk about some fun stuff. A little multi-dimensional here.
Have you seen the new Batman?
No.
Oh, it's on HBO.
Okay.
I think of Robert Pattinson as a attainable Batman. He like
That's who the Batman is?
yeah.
I didn't
He's
even
like
know that.
yeah, he like uglifies himself. He doesn't look as good as Christian Bale. I feel like his Batman is a little darker, which is probably good because if you really think about it, like Batman's a psycho.
Uh-huh.
It's like shot very differently. It's very, very dark. Like the light is dark. Like I don't like the
Is it
plot is obviously
scary?
dark.
Like if you're like a 10-year-old kid, like you think a 10-year-old could watch it or would it be scary?
I would say not a 10-year-old.
Not a 10-year-old.
There's some
Okay.
adult, but I liked it a lot.
Oh, okay. There's like adult stuff. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, I have not, but I will my husband would be thrilled if I said, let's watch Batman. He would be very...
It's like 3 hours long, but I think it's fine. 3 hours long is okay.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Scott. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your rest, and I'll look forward to you announcing that you're running New York in the fall.
Yeah. Thank you. I can't wait to announce that.
All right. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for making time for my show.
Thanks, of course, Lindsay. This was fun.
Okay. Bye, Scott.
Bye.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here today. Thank you, Scott, for coming on the show. I hope that you all have enjoyed this post-Boston Marathon series. I sure did have fun recording it. We'll be back to just regular Friday episodes from here on out until I think of another, Monday series that we might do here. Make sure you check out Inside Tracker. Go grab yourself a great blood test to make sure all your biomarkers are looking good. Go to insidetracker.com/another. Use the code another for 20% off your order. And you can get yourself the best lip balm out there that is from a company who is a small business and cares a lot about the environment. Go to portlandbbalm.com. Use the code SandyBoy for 15% off your first order. Just get a big multi-pack. That's what I do, because you need chapstick in every room in your house, right? All right, friends, thanks for being here, and we will see you Friday with another episode. Have a great rest of your day.